Are you a new or seasoned esthetician or entrepreneur looking for a place to vent and feel understood? Well, you're in the right place, honey, to be validated. Welcome to Skin on Earth podcast. I am your host, Bessie, aka Goddess of Estheticians, and here we'll be discussing all things skin aesthetics, mental health, and entrepreneurship. Come on in and get some tea on me about my struggles and mental health with balancing life-work balance and entrepreneurship. So I am finally editing and about to post this podcast. I recorded this podcast in February and it is now almost May. And that just goes to show how imposter syndrome can really take over. And also the spirit of procrastination can take over. So I really hope that this next portion of the podcast is very helpful, honestly, because it is very important to have your mind and your heart coming together and not conflicting. So I hope this helps. And yeah, I hope you enjoy the show. Today's episode is sponsored by Crown to Earth, your portal to skincare and wellness. Are you ready to take the guesswork out of your regimen, or are you ready to build your skincare routine and see real results? Well, your happy ending starts here. Visit www.crowntoearth.com and book your complimentary virtual skin consultation where we will discuss your skin concerns and create a magical skin regimen custom to you that will wake up your skin like Prince Charming kissing Snow White. Click the link in the bio. Now back to your program. Hello, friends. It is me, the Goddess of Estheticians, and I am finally back doing the podcast. Welcome to Skin on Earth podcast. I truly miss doing these podcasts. I did take a little quick hiatus just to restructure my business and just get everything going and just make sure I'm doing everything that I can do to create a very successful business. You know, it's no business with no plan. So you just gotta pretty much move forward and do what you gotta do. And that's exactly what I have been doing. Okay. I am just so excited to honestly just be back. I have just been waiting to do this. And, just with the topic that I'm going to be talking about today, it's just a perfect segue into the new year. Even some of what I've been going through or what you all may be going through becoming a esthetician, or whether you're in school or you're out of school, you're trying to get your license, you already got your license, you done been in the game for a minute, but business is just not moving or clients is not moving the way that you expected. So I just thought this was just a perfect time to really segue into this topic. So today's topic, as you can probably see, is about overcoming imposter syndrome in this industry. And I don't know about y'all, but I know for me, I deal with this very, very, very often. And I know for me, sometimes I do try to use the excuse of being shy or being an introvert as my way of kind of making excuses as to why I'm doing stuff or why I'm not doing stuff. But really, when it really boils down to it, it's a form of imposter syndrome. So I thought this was very, very important, a very important topic to even talk about, especially in this day and age where we have technology. Everything is right at the tip of our fingers. We're just kind of watching all of these people allegedly flourishing. Not saying there everyone is not flourishing, but as we know, when it comes to success or you know, the social media, people only show you what they want you to see. And a lot of people, I'm realizing they're trying to get into this, bring realness back, and it's just still kind of like it still don't feel as organic. It just still kind of feels like something that, they're kind of another bandwagon they are hopping on. So, yeah, I just definitely wanted to come and bring this topic to you, whether you don't even have to be in the beauty industry. You could just be in any type of industry. This imposter syndrome, this topic of imposter syndrome, it affects millions of people when you're getting into a new career, getting into something new. So this can really resonate with anyone out there, and I just wanted to really talk about this and create a safe space per usual just for us to discuss this topic. Um, so I just, like I said, I personally have been dealing with it. I'm working my way out of it, but I still have my moments where I deal with imposter syndrome. And I just wanted to kind of give some context. Um, I was reading this article in the Skin Deep. If you are a member of ASCP, this is not a sponsorship, but it can be, y'all. ASCP, hit me up. Um, so I do have my insurance through ASCP, and they do send us these articles, these Skin Deep articles, and they actually had an article in there about imposter syndrome. So I just kind of wanted to read a few blurbs from this article about imposter syndrome. Um, so it says the term imposter phenomenon was coined in the late 1970s by psychologist Susan Eames, I could be saying that wrong, and Paula Rose Clance, and was later popularized as imposter syndrome. They found the phenomenon occurs among high achievers, especially women. That is just so interesting, just very, very interesting. So especially women who struggle to internalize their success. They describe imposter syndrome as the feeling that you don't belong or you haven't earned your place, that you're not smart or experienced enough. Imposter syndrome often includes the fear you will be found out and uncovered as a fraud. And, it is very, very crazy how we can sit here and manifest or or I would say internalize these fears. And, I'm not going to lie. Um, Imposter syndrome has been keeping me, this is a vulnerable, transparent moment. Um, Imposter syndrome has been really keeping me personally from even doing this podcast. I haven't even really broadcast this podcast. I may have posted it a couple times on my TikTok. I haven't even told anyone in my circle that I've started a podcast, and I already have, I believe, 2 episodes already. Um, And so that just goes to show how deep imposter syndrome can really go. You just don't want nobody to hear you. You don't want to sound stupid. You don't want to sound, you just don't want to sound uneducated, or, like it says in this term, being found out, and it's very interesting when you're dealing with this, because when I say really, and I'm speaking from my experience, I truly go through a battle. Like, I haven't even put this on Instagram, so nobody really knows that I have a podcast. And it's just really interesting, some of the things that you go through when you're dealing with this syndrome. Um, and that's why I just really wanted to bring this conversation to the forefront and really just make this conversation, um, just the topic of me coming back, re-emerging, back into doing these podcasts and honestly just showing up for myself. I did kind of start thinking like, oh, I need to fall into this perfection of aesthetics, or oh, this is what success looks like. And the crazy thing is, I'm not, I don't I'm not always on social media. I do not do a lot of scrolling. I do my best. I do research. I do watch other people, but I do my best not to get too into watching other people, because just by habit, you end up sometimes taking on a person's persona based off if you admire their style. So I do my best to not even really watch a lot of people. I do admire a lot of people's style, but I try not to um, mimic their style, or I'll like kind of be like, oh, okay, I like this idea, and then stop watching them and see if I can form it into my own idea of how I want to run my business, or just how I want to do things. It's very interesting how we can, you know, think we can admire someone and then we end up mimicking them or wanting to be like them. And there's nothing wrong with, having someone that you admire or anything like that. But, you know, once it gets to the point where you're taking their entire style, like, it doesn't become you. And I think that was one part that kind of put me in this situation where I was just having imposter syndrome, because I was trying not to become someone else. And then I was just like, well, maybe I'm not that interested. Or, maybe, no one's going to care about what I'm doing. And then you do start looking at other people's success like, okay, well, I'm doing this with my business. I'm doing that with my business. Maybe I'm not smart enough. Maybe I don't know my craft enough. And the thing is, I have invested so much money in furthering my education. Of course, I went to school, got my license, invested money in furthering my education in different treatments and becoming the best esthetician I possibly can. All I do is study. I don't just scroll on social medias all day. I am reading all day. If you know anyone that knows me and they see my phone to my face and they be like, what you doing? And I'm like, I'm reading. I am always reading. I'm rarely scrolling. So it's just, you know, even with me knowing all of this knowledge, it's just, it really, I really can't even form the words to really understand how something, even when you have the knowledge, and like with me, I like to learn stuff and then I like to be able to um, regurgitate it, basically, like, put it back out, put the knowledge that I just learned back out. So luckily for me, I do work with clients because I do work at a franchise. So when I am in there with my clients, I look up things that are more relevant to the things that I see every day with the clients that I do work with, or the clients that I have during my virtual skin consultations. So I definitely um, everything that I learn, I make sure that I regurgitate it back out again when I'm talking to my clients. Of course, something that's digestible for them. So I do make sure that I'm very knowledgeable, and if I don't know anything, I do my best to learn about it. I'll write it down. I'll ask for prescriptions. I ask my clients to write the prescriptions down that they're talking about. And then I go into a full on research. And like people who know me personally know I am a rabbit hole person. Like I start researching one thing and I'm going down a whole rabbit hole. So I am really, really big on research. So I definitely wanted to discuss some causes of triggers and stuff like that. And like I said, this is just a podcast, honestly, about me just being more transparent. And I know it was one esthetician I was watching, and I realized it was triggering me when the esthetician would say, "Oh, you know who went to Aveda." Now, I did go to an Aveda school, um, and so when this would be said, I would personally get triggered. Like, am I not good enough? Is my education not good enough? I paid all of this money just to go to a school that wasn't nothing. And then I had to think about it like, it doesn't really matter what school I went to. I was there for one purpose. That was to get my clock in my hours. And I was learning honestly on my own, period, anyway, regardless if I went to that school or went to a different school. And regardless of that, with any profession that you have to do, you still, even once you learn something, you still have to get further training and further education on everything. These schools, they only teach you the basics, so you can't be hung up on what you learned or did not learn in these schools. And furthermore, yes, I understand that these institutions are supposed to teach you things, but at the end of the day, you are responsible for the information that you're retaining. You are responsible for your own education and what you're learning and how you're learning. So your best bet is to figure out what your learning style is, because regardless if you go to school and you have good instructors or you go to school and have bad instructors, you're still going to have to move forward and further training and information anyway. And like I said, when I realized that this had became a trigger, I really had to separate that trigger from myself. So if you're starting to hear words, or you start to listen to more seasoned estheticians talk about tyrosinase inhibitors, using all of these words that you don't really know, um, using all of these, talking about all these ingredients that you don't know, what do glycolic do? What do lactic acid do? All of these things. When it starts to feel like a whirlwind of information and you feel like you are so lost, and it starts triggering you because now you're feeling like, oh my God, I really don't know anything. What did I learn? You just really want to make sure you're catching those moments and going back into yourself and saying, it's okay that I don't know this. It's okay that I went to this school. It's okay that I feel like I did not learn a lot of things. These are things that are easily obtainable and that I can get training. I can learn this. You really just have to be more self-aware and really start understanding that, okay, it may be something you don't know now, but guess what? Now you have more room to get that knowledge, get that information so that you can use it later. And make sure when you're getting this information, you are retaining this information. I don't care if you have to recite it to yourself. I don't care if you have to recite it to your mama, your daddy, your siblings, your cousins. I don't care who you got to recite it to. You make sure you go and you recite it just to make sure that you are obtaining this information. Start doing virtual consultations with family and friends just so you can see the concerns that people are having. You'll start realizing that a lot of people almost have the same concerns. You just have to know how to personalize it and treat each person. So honestly, all of this stuff will come to you eventually. And then you also have to understand with every level of information and every level of expertise that you get to, you are going to reach a new level of imposter syndrome. And that is what I learned. When I first started, got my license and everything, I was just like, oh my gosh. I would be in that treatment room at the franchise that I'm currently at, and would be like, I would be scared to do the consultation. Like, I would be so afraid to do the freaking consultation. And I had to get to a point where I was just like, speak, just talk. You're going to have to say something. Like, and it's crazy because I got more and more comfortable with talking to the client. I got more and more comfortable with educating the client. And then that turned into me going home and making sure that I understood ingredients. I understood why I was recommending certain products. I understood why I was recommending, these certain treatments. And when you get to that point, you will realize you have reached another level. And the crazy thing is I've been a licensed esthetician for a little over a year now, and I've learned so much. And then, like I said, I have reached a new level of feelings of this imposter syndrome that I am really working through. And honestly, I just really needed this podcast. I really needed this platform to really talk about this. I really needed this platform to really talk about this because it can be very, very, very paralyzing. And I know I am not alone out there when I say, like, to feel like an imposter, to feel like you're going to be found out. Like, it is the most scariest thing. But I'm starting to realize that I have to keep going. I have to move past that fear. And there's nothing wrong with fear or anything like that. But you have to get to the point where you're saying, okay, this is a new level of fear I have reached. How do I get to the other side? And that's what this podcast is to me. Sharing this, being more vulnerable, being just open and honest. Not saying I haven't been open and honest before, but I knew that in this particular podcast, I was going to be a lot more vulnerable. In speaking up and actually being honest about how I feel and how I have felt. So I think at this point, a couple of strategies that I think can help to overcome imposter syndrome, and these are just some of my strategies, is I am getting to the point where I'm working out more. And I know that sounds like, oh my God, she's about to get into this workout more. But I do find that it is very, very helpful for me when I release, just, I guess, whatever it is that working out do. So I really do need that. Meditation, that helps me as well. I am a meditation practitioner. So I do work on myself constantly. So I'm always just reaching new levels of myself and who I am, and, just really coming out of certain, just internalized trauma, and busting out of that, busting out of those, uh, or coming out of a shell of, new internalized trauma and shedding from that. I do also do some yoga. I like to personally do one yoga pose for the month. I like to focus on one yoga pose. I don't worry about doing a full on yoga session. I just like to focus on the one yoga pose and strengthen myself, my mental, my body, my soul into that one pose, and then really reflect on how it made me feel throughout that month. I think some other strategies you can take is just being a lot more self-aware and accepting, um, and just really encouraging yourself to, and reflect, to recognize your own imposter feelings. What are these feelings? What's triggering these feelings when someone says something, or when someone asks you something? What's triggering these feelings? So even uh, writing down, what, I'm sorry, even writing down, your feelings, and trying to reflect on those will definitely help. And, just acknowledging and accepting your imperfections. It's okay to be imperfect. We all know that it's no such thing as perfection. And you will stress yourself out and put yourself deeper in fear trying to feel this idea of perfection. So just accepting those imperfections. And sometimes, when we realize we have certain imperfections, if you are really good at honing in on those imperfections and using those imperfections to be creative through those imperfections, sometimes you can create just something spectacular. Um, so I definitely think that that's something that could definitely help. Another thing that has helped me is really setting realistic goals. I I remember I did this challenge one time. It was a challenge, basically working on getting people to be more present on social media. And I remember before I did the challenge, I was just always like, okay, how do I plan out the month? And it was just so overwhelming for me. And so I did this challenge, and what I loved about the challenge is it was like, just focus on the next 7 days. When I say, it really simplified things for me for that week, it was like, create 3 goals. Okay, the second day, start figuring out how you're going to implement these 3 goals. Then do the, like, I mean, when I did that challenge, I was just like, oh my God, I need to set goals, achievable goals in increments. And that's basically what I do all the time now. I focus on either the day, um, or the next 7 days. Sometimes I will, depending, of course, you set long term goals, but those short term goals, and they're just more realistic, sometimes, like, because you feel more accomplished when you're running your own business, or you're just trying to get to the next level of what your idea of success is. You'll realize, like, you're always looking at the bigger picture. How much money can I make from this? What can I do? What can I create? What type of clients I want? But sometimes you just need to set a goal, like, I need to write a list of 3 things that I want to do for the next 3 days. Just creating some more realistic goals. And to me, creating more realistic goals that are not so far out helps you realize you're actually moving forward, and you're actually making progress, and you're really, really doing a great job. Um, and for me, it helps boost my confidence and competence, so I really enjoy creating and setting realistic goals. And I think it's very, very beneficial. Another thing that I would say can help um, with overcoming imposter syndrome is just continuous education. When I say always, always, always be a student, that's just simply what I mean. Always be a student. Don't ever put yourself in a position where you think you just know it all. You always want to be a student. I tell people that all the time. Like, that's the last thing I want to do, is not be a student. I always want to be a student. I'm learning. When I say I'm researching, I'm reading all the time, whether it's business information, or skin ingredients or something. When I say I'm always learning, if I'm not learning something, I honestly, I feel lost. It's so crazy, but I truly feel lost. I get a lot of great information by, like, listening to podcasts, um, and honestly, like, especially, and this is for the estheticians who are listening out there, you have a license or you have a student account, get on these skincare accounts. Open you up a skincare account. Some of these skincare accounts have free education. They have free information. You need to be utilizing, but if you can't afford it, you can be utilizing these skincare brands that we have access to get specific education. If you're not understanding stuff in school, continue. Like, when I say find classes, that's all I did in school, was found a bunch of classes. Go on YouTube. I love to follow, I don't necessarily follow estheticians on YouTube. I follow a couple, but I usually go follow dermatologists on YouTube. I go follow estheticians on TikTok. And Instagram is kind of like, yeah, I just look at what people are doing, and posting on there. So when I say it's so much information out there, continue to learn. Always be a student. I mean, it is very important for you to get resources and stay up to date, in this industry, or whatever industry that you're working in. And this is something I put on my list, but I am still working on this. Seeking support. So, I think this is one of the reasons why sometimes I do feel imposter syndrome, because I have supportive friends and family, but they're not in my field. Um, so I get a little like, I won't say jealous. I would say I feel a little lonely because I haven't really um, found a supportive network of girlies or, people that's in my field, um, and stuff like that. And I always feel like I'm kind of like trying to penetrate, not in a bad way, but like, just trying to, create a relationship. But I realized like a lot of people already kind of got their little cliques and stuff like that. And it's very hard to, I guess, I don't have a presence. I have somewhat of a presence on social media, but it's not always consistent. So, for me, this is something I'm still working on, is seeking support, because I think it would be more helpful if I had like friends who was in the aesthetics world. I did have some SD friends. One of my SD friends, she moved, and I'm not sure if she's doing a lot of aesthetic stuff anymore. And a lot my other SD friend from school, she just have her own world. She got her own business going on. She just had a baby. So, a lot of people are really busy. So I'm really seeking, it's been I would say I'm seeking, but it's been difficult for me to find friends um, that is within my field. But I really can see how, finding this type of support, or even business owners, like real business owners who's seen the good, the bad, and the ugly, who can really just push you. So, I think that I put that on my list, but that is definitely something that I'm working on as far as seeking support from colleagues or people that are within my field that own their own business or are just business owners or are estheticians. Um, Next on my list is positive self-talk. That is self-explanatory. Okay, I have my days where I'm crying. I'm like, what is going on? This just don't seem like it's working. God, just show me a sign. I do have my days, but the next day or the next couple of hours, I just prep myself. I'll get in the mirror and be like, girl, you the shit. You this, you're that. You are the beginning and the end. You know this. You got this. I just say all types of things um to myself. One thing that I listen to a lot of motivating songs, like Soldier Boy, you know. Swag on. I got, I'm trying to pump myself up just so I can make sure my day is starting well, and I just use that as like kind of that stepping stone to start talking and doing positive things for the day. Um, and I would recommend some affirmations that really help build self-esteem. Like, just create affirmations. Always speak it in future tense. I can. I am. Those are very powerful starting words for creating powerful affirmations. Um, I usually just pretty much go with whatever my feelings are at the moment. Like, and I never like say anything like, for instance, I wouldn't say, I am overcoming imposter syndrome. Like, if you did want to say something like that, I would say, I have overcome imposter syndrome. But I usually try not to use my fear or the issue at hand. I just speak um, life. You know, I am the best esthetician. I am the goddess of estheticians. Okay. I am very knowledgeable. I am very knowledgeable in ingredients for skin of color. I just, I say stuff like that. Um, you just want to speak life into yourself and what you're doing. So, let's see. Well, this isn't last. Well, yeah. Actually, this is last. This is my last thing on my list is self-care and work-life balance. And I just really want to stress the importance of maintaining, um, like just physical and emotional well-being. The other day, and I do take a lot of time for my own personal self-care, but I'm always doing something. Like I'll be working on my business, or I would look at self-care as putting on a cute little pajama outfit, doing my everything shower, my skincare, putting on some cute pajamas and grabbing my computer and sitting in the bed all day and just doing stuff on my computer. But the other day I was like, I have to not do anything business related, or I try not to do stuff skincare related. And I'm working on that too. So the other day, I just didn't do anything skin care related. Well, okay, that's a lie. I ain't mean to lie to y'all. Starting off bad already. No, so I did. So this is the thing. I did not bring my computers out. None of my business computers out. I did not bring my business phone out. My business phone has all my social medias, my business emails, everything on there. I did not pull it out. However, I did read one of my books. It was not a skincare book, but it is a holistic nutritional book that I've been reading because I am taking some classes on nutrition, and it has some pages about aging and acne. So I just kind of I only read a couple of blurbs because I like to read a little bit, make sure I'm digesting it, or if I don't understand some of the wording in it, I'll start researching some of those words and stuff. So that's basically what I was doing, and stuff like that. So I ended up buying a book off of Kindle. I don't even know what the name of the book is right now, but I was like, I need to figure out something else. Maybe I need to read some fiction, or one thing I am going to get into. I got into this when I was during COVID. When COVID first started, I just wanted something that did not make me want to make money from it. And everything I did with my business, whether it was skincare, everything I did, it seemed like it had something to do with my business. So I picked up crocheting, and I really liked it. I loved it. I was just honestly, I was buying yarn and just fucking crocheting. I don't even know what I was crocheting. I guess in my mind I started crocheting this blanket. Trust me, it is very irregular. It is it's not done for sure, but it's definitely not going to be a perfect blanket, which is super cool, honestly. But I had started doing that, and then I just kind of fell off. So I believe that is something that I am going to start implementing back in my work-life balance, and just creating a day where I literally am just doing, I'll say, mindless things. Being mindful, but mindless things. It doesn't have anything to do. If I want to read, I don't mind reading, but I won't go down a full rabbit hole of research if it has anything to do with my business or skin care or just anything. And so I think that's what I'm going to do is start getting more into some fiction, or is it nonfiction? Fiction, fantasy type, that genre of books, and getting back into crocheting and just relaxing. Um, Maybe watching some comedy because I do love comedy. So yeah, just really maintaining that physical and emotional well-being, and for me, that's what I'm learning that I need to do. I think I was trying so hard not to do something on my computer. Um, I started like cleaning my makeup brushes, just little stuff. I just started doing other stuff, and it didn't feel like, I realized like I am on this cycle of, okay, let me do something for my business all the time. My free time, I'm just doing stuff for my business. And I was like doing something on my phone, and my friend was like, are you checking stuff on your phone? And I was like, and she was like, you're not supposed to be doing nothing business related. And I was just like, you're right. I'm not going to do that. So, just really creating that balance where everything that you do is not work. I know people be like, everything you do is content. Like, it's going to be some days you just, and maybe I'm not the poster child of saying this because I'm not that consistent with content, but you really have to create that balance and that divide. Um, so, and honestly, I really just suggest to just do some self-care practices just to reduce your stress and anxiety. And for me, that is meditation, and it's doing a yoga pose, not a whole yoga class, just one yoga pose. And like I said, I think for me, it will definitely be crocheting. Um, so I really just find what makes you happy outside of your business that has nothing to do with your business, because trust me, when you feel stressed about your business, or you just feel stressed about, starting this new career, in general, whether you want to go into business for yourself or you don't, you are going to need an outlet. Usually, also my outlet is going hiking. I am an outdoorsy girl, so, but I don't like outdoors when it's cold. So when the summertime hit, or the spring, time hit, I usually just go to some of my nearest hiking spots, and just do a day hike. Sometimes I'll get a little footage of me, but for the for the most part, I put my phone away. I don't worry about footage. And that's really what I like about my life, but with today's age, everything is content. Everything is content. That's what they say. But I pretty much like my life like that. So, um, I think also with that self-care and the work-life balance, I want to keep that in the back of my mind, that I don't have to, keep up with this. Everything is content. You gotta post. And I'm okay with that. Um, so yeah, but, um, you know, I kind of want to, I hope this helped. That is pretty much it. That's like the last, tip or strategy I have for overcoming imposter syndrome. I just had a couple of notes, so hopefully I didn't do too much rambling. But you know what? If I did, I just did. You know what? We're not gonna worry about perfect. What I say, we're not gonna worry about perfection. We're not gonna worry about perfection, okay? Um, so I really, really hope this podcast helped. Um, and I'm really glad that this is the podcast I chose to come back on. And I'm gonna tell y'all, because of imposter syndrome, I have been procrastinating. And that's what the article did say. Like sometimes um, procrastinating is one of the ways you can tell that you may have imposter syndrome. Um, and so um, I have been procrastinating on recording this podcast because I was paralyzed. I didn't know. I knew that I was going to want to finally tell people I had a podcast when this particular um, podcast came out. So I was really afraid, honestly. Um, so I finally am doing it. So, in my opinion, this is my success story in overcoming imposter syndrome, um, and achieving a goal. And I definitely wanted to put this out. And it was just so crazy. And I'm going to tell you, it was so many signs. Like, I was like, okay, that's going to be my first one. I'm excited. I'm going to finally tell people I got a podcast. I'm going to finally tell everyone I have a podcast. And I would just push it off another week. And I'll be like, okay, this week I'm going to finally record it. And I'm going to record all the other ones that I definitely want to do. And I would just push it off another couple of days. And then that turned into a week. Then that turned into a month. And I'm going to tell you, when the universe, God, the higher powers, when it's time for you to move, you can't ask for signs and don't pick up when those signs come. Because when it's time for you to move, God will literally put everything right in front of you. I just so happened to I was going through the magazines of the first sign I remember. I was just like, man, I need to talk about imposter syndrome. It just randomly came up in my mind. So then I was like, oh, okay, I'll think of some stuff. I'll think of some things I want to talk about. And I'm going to try not to ramble, but I have to go here. And so I'm like just looking up stuff on imposter syndrome, blah, blah, blah. Nothing's really resonating. I'm just like, whatever. I'll figure out what I'm going to talk about or how I'm going to segue into it. And I went on ASCP, and like I said, they come out with a magazine, I believe, every season. And they had just put out a new issue, and I just was like, let me scroll, and they have it digital. So I was just scrolling, and one of the issues right on the front of the cover said, Overcoming Imposter Syndrome. So I download the issue, and I'm like, okay, I'll read it. Never read it. I was actually doing something else. I can't remember right now, but whatever I was doing, I think an article or something came up. Imposter syndrome. I was like, oh God, okay. And then like one day I just let my podcast like go. I had been listening to the podcast all freaking day. And mind you, in the back of my head, I kept saying, all right, I'm going to record, push it off again. I'm going to record, push it off again. And like I was actually listening to my podcast all day. I finally had just followed this new person, and literally, boom, there it goes. She starts talking about imposter syndrome. And I was just like, okay, you know. And you can't ask for signs. You can't ask God to change things in your life and ask for signs if you can't pick up on the signs. You have to be ready. And those were my signs to finally put myself out there and honestly, excuse my language, not give a fuck about what anyone think, or just anything. I don't have time. I don't want to do that anymore to myself. I think it keeps me stagnant, and being in a state of being paralyzed or feeling paralyzed all the time, it just don't feel good. And I know I have greatness in me. We all got greatness in us. And I know that in my heart that being vulnerable and finally coming out with this podcast at this time is going to help someone. And I hope that that someone is you. And if it does, please just share your success stories of being an esthetician or starting a new career and, how you've overcome imposter syndrome and achieved your goal of um, overcoming imposter syndrome. And I invite any questions um, that you have, just hit me up on Crown to Earth. Crown to Earth everywhere. It's Crown to Earth on Instagram. It's Crown to Earth on Twitter. It's Crown to Earth on TikTok, Facebook. Just hit me up. Just with your success stories or any questions, or anything you want me to elaborate on this. And I really, really just hope this was helpful to anyone facing imposter syndrome. And like I said, you can hit me up on all social platforms at crowntoearth.com. Oh, well, just Crown to Earth. And go ahead and check out my website where I do sell all natural products. And you can also book a virtual consultation with moi and get some personalized skin advice from me. Go to www.crowntoearth.com or hit me up in the DMs on all social media platforms such under Crown to Earth. So, I feel good, y'all. I'm gonna take that breath of fresh air, right? Not off, not off the mic, on the mic. All right, y'all. I'll see y'all next episode. Bye.